Last week was probably the best week of the year. The stock market crashed and experienced a correction, as many people expected. Like many of you, I was busy buying stocks that I was waiting to buy for some time already. Since the beginning of the year, I did not buy much except my favorite ETFs, since I was expecting a correction. In the previous video, I have already explained why I believe the stock market will keep rising this year. So in this video, I want to share with you what are the best investments of this year. But before we do that, as much as I put effort into these videos, at the end of the day, I am not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice, and everything that's said in this video is for educational or entertainment purposes. In order to make the best financial decision that suits your needs, you must conduct your own research and seek the advice of a licensed financial advisor. So, do not do what I say in this video. The first investment that I believe is going to do great this year and in the following few years is QQQ ETF. This is not your typical S&P 500 ETF, but slightly different. If there is something we have learned from the past year is that the tech will keep growing much faster. The amount of money that's now poured into the new tech is unbelievable. And as we're moving into the digital world of 5G with self-driving cars and artificial intelligence, the tech is undoubtedly going to have a much bigger impact on our lives. Of course, the typical S&P 500 ETF also invests in tech, but QQQ is almost just about tech because it invests in the top 100 largest international and domestic companies listed on the Nasdaq stock exchange. Unlike other exchanges, the Nasdaq is known for technology and innovation and is home to the internet, biotechnology and other companies at the cutting edge. As such, stocks listed on the Nasdaq are considered growth-oriented and more volatile. Of course, that presents a higher risk. However, that also presents a bigger opportunity. And since tech is clearly going to play a much larger role in our lives in the coming years, the ETF is expected to grow significantly higher than other ETFs. While S&P 500 grew by 18% last year, QQQ grew by 50%. That's a huge difference. That doesn't mean it's going to continue like that. But if you believe that tech is going to get even bigger when we are going to have smart cars, smart homes, smart cities, and everything connected through 5G in the next decade or so, then this is the ETF to stick to. It includes within itself all the tech companies you can think about, from Tesla to Nvidia to Intel. If one of them comes up with a revolutionary product or service, you will definitely benefit from it as long as you're an investor in this ETF. Before we move on, let's thank our sponsor, Lingoda. If you're a regular viewer of the channel, you probably have realized that sometimes I make mistakes when pronouncing some words. I do my best not to make such mistakes, but it gets difficult sometimes when English isn't your first language. Nor is it my second language. No, it's not my third, nor is it my fourth language. English is my fifth language. I had to learn a bunch of languages before I finally started learning English. The next language on my list is German. People always ask me, how do they manage to learn so many languages? The main reason is my parents used to travel a lot when I was a kid, so I had no other choice but to learn the language to be able to play with other kids and attend school. But you don't need that today because we have tools such as Lingoda, the place where you can learn French, German, Spanish from qualified native-speaking teachers or even improve your English. Here is the best part. Lingoda has a super sprint which starts on April 28th. If you attend 30 classes a month for 3 months, you will get 100% cash back. It's basically learn the language in 3 months and get your money back. And if this seems too difficult to complete, you can also try Sprint, where you can get a 50% cash back if you attend 15 classes a month for 3 months. It doesn't matter if you're a complete beginner, intermediate, or advanced learner. At Lingoda, you will find an appropriate course for your level. And if you use the link in the description, you will get a great discount. Make sure to check them out because the last day to join the sprint is April 16th. And now, let's get back to the video. The second stock that I believe that has huge potential is QuantumScape. But it's very risky, so please do not invest in this company. If there is one technology that's certainly going to play one of the biggest roles in our lives, is undoubtedly batteries. Batteries are already huge, but in the next decade or so, the world is going to shift to battery-based society. And that's not because we want to do that, but rather we have no other choice. Climate change has left little choice for us. Shifting to renewable energy is one thing, but storing that energy is a whole different story. Think about it. Less than 2% of cars that are produced annually are electric, and we already have a shortage of batteries. How many batteries do you think we need to be able to make the other 98% of cars electric? Even if starting from next year every car will be electric, we need like 15 to 20 years to replace all existing engine cars with electric. Tesla is of course at the head of this industry, but Tesla uses lithium-ion batteries, which are great, but present fundamental problems. They're expensive and take a long time to charge. But Tesla solved that problem with a charging station in your garage so that you can charge your Tesla overnight while you're sleeping. That's a great solution. However, if we want to go all electric, we have to build more effective batteries. And that's where QuantumScape comes into the picture. Traditional lithium-ion batteries use a liquid electrolyte. The lithium dissolves in that liquid, drifts to the liquid, and gets the anode and vice versa. But QuantumScape has replaced that liquid material with a solid material that will make it possible to use a lithium metal anode. That's going to make it safer and double the energy density and also make it faster to charge. In other words, the same battery will provide you with double range. But here is another disclaimer. I'm not an engineer, so if I got something wrong there, please correct me. But the technology seems very promising. Volkswagen has already invested over $300 million into this company and recently tested the technology, and it looks very promising. As the number of electric cars is increasing, this company will be the major player in this industry. You know what's the most important thing when buying a house? Your mortgage rate. Even a slight difference is going to be huge over 30 years. Getting a 0.5% lower rate will save you a fortune. Last year, since the Fed decreased the interest rates, getting a fixed mortgage was probably one of the best decisions you could make. But it was risky because the market could be overvalued. An overvalued market means a correction could be on the horizon. Besides, when everyone is buying, it's difficult to find a good deal. Nonetheless, possible. Mortgage rates went as low as 2.5% last year. In comparison, mortgage rates were 4.9% back at the end of 2018. Even in 2019, even before the pandemic, they were floating at around 3.5%. So getting a mortgage at 2.8% or 2.9% or even 3% is actually a good deal, especially if you spend some time finding a good deal in the market. Since buying a house is probably the biggest single purchase in most people's lives, getting a lower rate is probably the best investment one can make. I'm almost certain that in the next few years, the rates will just keep rising. If we are talking strictly about this year, then I think that any investment in any of the big tech is going to have a really good return this year. It seems like everyone already agrees that inflation is just going to keep rising, so keeping cash is going to hurt. But holding stock in any of the largest tech companies is immune against inflation, because no matter how fast the inflation rate is, these stocks are going to rise even faster, because we're going to have a lot of investors who have to keep their money somewhere, and one of the places they're going to keep their money is the big tech. I've made a video recently about why the stock market could crash because it's at least slightly overvalued, but by that crash, I don't mean anything like what happened in 2020, but it could be a slightly bigger correction compared to what we have seen in recent weeks. If you haven't invested during the correction, then you probably missed a great opportunity, because a lot of stocks, especially the big tech, were down by 10% give and take. I personally invested in many companies that I have already invested in before and invested in a few more companies that I have shared with my Patreons on my Patreon page. I've already suggested multiple S&P 500 ETFs in previous videos, but I would note that they aren't the only options. There is a variety of ETFs, and one of the most popular ones that I personally invest in is VTI. It doesn't just invest in the S&P 500, but in the entire economy of the United States, starting from small caps to mid caps to largest companies in the market. So it just moves with the market. It doesn't grow like Falcon 9, but at the same time, it's a safe bet, It's not just a good investment for this year, but pretty much for any other year. It has a very low expense ratio, which makes it a perfect option for long-term investments. Last year, it grew as much as the S&P 500 did. Sometimes it's higher, other times it's lower. I personally invest in it every month just to keep my portfolio a bit diversified. And now, it's time to get at least 2 free stocks from Webull if you use the link in the description. If you have enjoyed this video, you will most definitely enjoy this custom playlist that I have created specifically for you that has our most popular videos on business, investing, and the stock market that could potentially change your life. And now, give this video the thumbs up that it deserves and make sure to subscribe if you haven't done that yet. Thanks for watching, and until next time.